Oh, there we go. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and our streaming audience. Welcome to the review meeting for exterior streets and intersections surrounding Chiillicothe Park. At this time, I'll turn this meeting over to Mr. Creed.
All right, first thing we're going to do, we're going to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Councilman McKeever, can you lead us?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, well, thank you all for coming tonight. I know it's a very hot topic for a lot of people. As we get started, first I want to introduce a couple of people from American Structure Point, Michael Salvador and Tony Leonard. They're going to be the two doing the presentations, and they'll come up here in just a little bit once I kind of go through what we're going to do. So council got this assignment about a month and a half ago, and so normally we don't do review sessions on everything, but we felt this was an important enough topic that we wanted to make sure we got information and got feedback from the community. So we set up this review session. After this review meeting, if we're able to get all the questions answered and we feel comfortable as a council and committee that we can move forward, we'll have a committee meeting. We'll make a recommendation for legislation. Then after that, there'll be 3 reads of the legislation at 3 different meetings, and then there'll be a final vote. So there's still a lot of time for us to get input, make decisions, try to make the right decisions for Chiillicothe. So American Structure Point, they're going to come up, they're going to review their proposed plan for the roads and intersections surrounding Chiillicothe Park. After that, I'm going to have Ben Daughters come up and speak for downtown Chiillicothe, and then at that time, we'll open it up for questions. So I want them to get through everything, kind of make sure everybody gets all the information. The first thing I want to talk about when we get into questions, I want to talk about road changes, as far as how we feel about those. Any questions that you guys have discussion about that. Then I want to get into the intersection changes that they're recommending, and we'll talk about one at a time: Riverside and Mulberry, Water, South Paint Street, West Water, Chiillicothe, and then Chiillicothe and Mill. And then we'll talk about the impacts on parking. I know sometimes some of that will cross over a little bit, but I want to make sure that the committee members and the council members are able to focus on one topic at a time so that we get a clear understanding of where we want to go with this. So then we'll have closing comments. We want everybody to speak that wants to speak. We really want to make it a discussion. We got over 100 emails, most against the roundabouts, just various things. And in those emails, some people said there was too much traffic. Some people said there wasn't enough traffic for roundabouts. Some people said they were unsafe. Of course, there are a lot of comments about losing the parking, a lot of concerns about construction time, construction cost, the appearance that they have. So hopefully American Structure Point will be able to answer a lot of that stuff when they give their presentation, but then we have time afterwards to get into those questions and really get into the detail of each one of those topics as we go through it. You also have a survey. If you could fill out the top part of it, just as you're sitting there, or hopefully you may already have it done as far as your opinions of these changes that they're recommending. And then at the end, I want you to finish out the survey. And then I think Julie and Lisa will be down at the bottom of the stairs to collect those. And that, again, will help us to, because not everybody's going to have a chance to speak probably, or not everybody wants to speak. But we do want to get your input, especially after you've heard the presentation, you've seen all the information. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Michael.
There we go. All right. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Council. Thank you for that introduction, Councilman. As you said, we are American Structure Point. We are the civil engineering and architecture firm that was engaged about 2 years ago by the state of Ohio to begin this whole adventure. And we've made a lot of progress over the last couple of years, and we're excited for the opportunity tonight to share an update on this very exciting and very large multifaceted project, and also to help answer some questions about the specific changes that are proposed for the road network surrounding Yaktangi Park. So as by way of introduction, I'm Michael Salvador. I'm Community Development Director with American Structure Point. I was responsible for leading this project through the application of the State of Ohio's Appalachia Community Grant Program and getting it kicked off. Behind me is our team from American Structure Point. Tony Leonard, who you're going to hear from for most of this evening, is the project manager now. He is in charge of implementing the design of this project, all three phases, and he's assisted by Sam Ott from our team, as well as our Vice President, Sean Goodwin, who's in charge of all of us, is here tonight as well. So with that, to help level set everyone before we get Tony up here, want to just quickly review what this project is so that everyone here tonight has a clear understanding of what we are trying to do, the city and the county, the state, and American Structure Point. This project was catalyzed by the Appalachia Community Grant Program, which was an initiative of the state of Ohio to competitively award about $500 million to communities within the 32 Appalachian counties of Ohio, of which Ross County is one. And in order to facilitate their selections so that the state had projects to review, the state hired 20 different firms, and American Structure Point was one of the 20, to assist community leaders in this region plan out projects. And because of the strong work done by the mayor, his team, and this council for years before we got here, most notably through the Choose Chiillicothe Comprehensive Plan, Chiillicothe had significant projects that very obviously would have community impact for us to work on. And we looked at a lot of different things at the beginning of the process. We actually submitted multiple applications, including one that also got funded outside of this park, the Chiillicothe Children's Museum, Mighty Children's Museum. But this project rose to the top. And we ended up submitting in December of 2023 a $35 million application to the state of Ohio to make it a reality. And there's a lot of pieces and parts within this project, but you can think of it as three main kind of buckets. The first is to build buildings inside the park, restore the Chiillicothe Armory to new uses, and build two additional facilities, one a visitor center that would be the kind of the hub for Ross County tourism, and the second being an all-seasons pavilion that organizations like the Chiillicothe Farmers Market could use, as well as special events. And we've been in front of council in the past discussing that aspect of the project, some renderings, designs, those are all in progress. The second bucket is upgrading amenities within the park itself, building a new large amphitheater, but also pickleball courts, upgrading playground equipment, reorganizing the trails inside the park, and also adding a significant number of parking spaces to assist in hosting festivals and events, which this park has done for its entire almost 200-year history, and allow those events to have larger capacities and be staged in ways that will draw more visitors in. The third component is this street network upgrade. And I want to share, before I turn it over to Tony, what our goals, the city and the county and ours, are of doing these street improvements. And it all boils down to safety. Safety for pedestrians and safety for vehicles. So we want to improve, as you can see on the screen there, the three goals. We want to improve the traffic flow surrounding the park. Today, in its condition, an awful lot of traffic cuts through the park. We all do it. I've done it. It's a nice pass through. It's very pretty. It's nice to drive through the park. But as a result of all of that traffic, it does create a safety concern if there are going to be, once this project's done, 2 or 3 times the average daily users of this park, kids running around, folks walking dogs. We want to minimize as much as we can cut through traffic in the park. If you are driving into the park, we want you to park in the park and enjoy the park. We don't want you to just drive through it. That's the idea, the intent, and the goal. So in order to do that, we not only have to change some of the street network within the park, we also have to make it a much nicer and safer driving experience to go around the park. And that's where changes to Water Street and changes to Yaktangi Parkway and the gateway entrances to the park, the 3 of them on the west side, Yaktangi and Mill, south side, Water and Paint, and east side, on River Road and Ray Street and Mulberry. That's where all of those changes come into play to make it easier to navigate around the park and also create that safer condition. So to achieve that, our proposal involves road dieting, removing some lanes along Water and Yoctangi, as well as doing intersection improvements, and our recommendation is roundabouts to improve traffic flow, but also to improve safety. And as Tony's going to explain here in a minute, in our experience as one of several firms that design roundabouts throughout Ohio and the country, roundabouts in urban environments like this slow speeds, increase sight visibility for drivers and for pedestrians, and ultimately contributes to a safer environment. And that is why our proposal is the way that it is, because we believe that it would be a value add for this community of a safer experience for pedestrians and vehicles interacting with what we're hoping to be as a high traffic, pedestrian traffic area at all times of the year, as folks go back and forth between downtown and Yoctangi Park and enjoy everything that Chiillicothe has to offer. So with that, I'll turn it over to our project manager, Tony Lenhart, who is going to describe for you a lot of data about how we have arrived at this point and what the benefits of the of these proposed improvements, which again are street improvements, intersection improvements, and parking changes are once this project is constructed.
Thank you, Michael. I'm Tony Lenhart. I've been with Structure Point for almost 19 years now. Started right out of college. Before that, I was in the Air Force for 8 years. So I've been around different places in the world, different countries that had roundabouts. They work great. They've been using them for hundreds of years. We're starting to really accept them here in the States for the last 20 or 25 years. But they're really, as our data will show, safety driven. They're meant to slow traffic down, create a safe crossing. A lot of these crossings are only one lane as opposed to crossing 4 or 5 lanes at an uncontrolled stop sign or stoplight, as well as really just helping traffic flow through there. So a lot of times you'll see at traffic lights, vehicles will stack up, and a lot of people picture the stacked traffic and then with a roundabout right there. Well, the roundabout traffic doesn't stack up because you're always entering it at any given time. So you don't have the 10, 12, 20 car backups. You have constant flow of traffic through there. And it's been proven through many different federal studies, state studies, and even in practicality of roundabouts and projects that we've designed, where we've been in a lot of communities just like this, where people are apprehensive towards them. They're not sure what's going to happen, or it's just something new or different. And after it goes through the process, it gets designed and constructed, they're like, we love these. These are great. When can we do a next one? So I know it takes a lot of patience and effort to sit through and listen to the data that we're going through, but I advise you to pay attention, listen to what we're saying here, and then if you have questions after that, we'll be happy to take them. So as Michael mentioned, we had several goals of the project, improving the street network around the park to help traffic flow, which in turn would prevent cut-throughs through the park, as well as creating a safe roadway and network for vehicles and pedestrians. How do we achieve these goals? Well, we went through and did a traffic study. We evaluated the intersection controls, whether we do signals or whether we do roundabouts. We wanted to find ways to determine ways to help speed reduction. When you have a big 4-lane roadway out there and not a lot of stop control, it's almost like you're on a drag strip, right? You have a wide open lane, you hit the gas and go. When you do road diets, it helps bring the lanes in a little closer. Instead of having 2 lanes going the same direction, where if someone's going slow, you can speed around them and go around. Well, when you have 1 lane in direction, you have to go at the same pace as the slowest car in front of you. So by nature, the funneling effect as well as the platooning effect of there will help slow traffic down. We're trying to limiting existing crashes and mitigate future crashes. So I'll show data here shortly, but we did a traffic analysis of all the crashes through the project corridors on Water Street, Yoctangi, Mulberry, and Riverside. And there was pedestrian crashes, there was rear end crashes, angle crashes. Every type of crash you can have in this area is present in this corridor. So how can we limit the potential of those happening as well as mitigate future accidents from happening? And how we're going to do that is using proven countermeasures to achieve the desired results. So FHWA and the state publish different countermeasures, such as roundabouts, or sometimes it's adding a signal to an intersection, or sometimes it's doing a road diet, or sometimes it's widening for more turn lanes, depending on what your crash pattern is in the area. They have different proven countermeasures that you can use to make it a safer environment. And with that, we want to create a safe and traversable street network for all users. So not just vehicles, but for pedestrians, bicyclists, anyone else that wants to use it. So why roundabouts? A lot of this will be data that we're going to present about this. So I'll read through here, but you can follow along as well. Roundabouts are the safest form of intersection control available. Roundabouts compared to signals have a 35% reduction in total crashes, a 76% reduction in injury crashes, 81% reduction in fatal crashes, as well as a 30 to 40% reduction in pedestrian crashes. And that's data available through the NCHRP report, which is kind of the roundabout design guideline. Why are they safer? Severe crash types are nearly eliminated. By the nature of the roundabout and doing the circulating motion, you eliminate left turning crashes, you eliminate angle crashes, you eliminate right turning crashes. You have fewer conflict points. I'll have a graphic up here after a few of these slides, but it shows what a traditional intersection is with the amount of crash points for pedestrians and vehicles versus what it is at a roundabout. Because at a roundabout, you have one single entry for everyone going left, right, or center, where at an intersection, you can go left, right, or center from either lane, which it multiplies on top of itself. Speeds reduced through geometry. So these aren't just circles placed in the middle of the road. There's geometry control to them. So we have entry speeds and exit speeds. We have circulating speeds that go around there. There's also angles of deflection that you put in there to help promote that slower speed. So these are designed to go 25 mile per hour entries and 15 mile per hour circulating speeds. So that's probably the same speed as people travel to the park on those side roads, right? They're 10, 15 mile per hour. You feel safe walking along the street in a park network. This is how we'll be addressing the public street around the area. Shorter pedestrian crossing widths. So with this, less time in the street is less potential for crashes, right? Using the Water Street and Paint Street as an example, right now, if you're crossing Water Street, you're crossing 6 lanes, a parking lane, 2 through lanes on either direction, and then a 6th parking lane. So you have to cross 6 lanes, which is about 70 feet of pavement. In the roundabout, you only have to cross 1 lane, which is about between 16 to 14 feet, depending on where we're at in the taper of there. So you're only exposed to traffic coming from one direction, not from all 4 directions, one direction, and you only have to crossing between 16 and 14 feet. And then you have a pedestrian safe refuge island. So you enter in, you're in that zone that's protected by the curbs, and then you have to cross the other lane. And traffic's only coming from one direction that as well. So you don't have to look both ways at traffic. You only have to look right or have to look left depending on where you're crossing. The ability to speed up to beat the light. You see a lot of times it signals, it turns yellow, means slow down for the signals turning red. And most of us, me given to, if I'm at a signal, I don't want to wait because I like to be where I need to be. So you speed up to go through it. And that causes potential for accidents as well. You avoid any red light running. So I have a new driver myself. My kid just got his temporaries, and we were out on the road. And the first 2 or 3 times we were out, we came to a stoplight, told him, be defensive, make sure you look left or right, even though it's green. And it was green for a solid 3 seconds, and the car goes screaming right through. So one of those, at a roundabout, you can't do that. You have to slow down. If they do come through that, they're going to get caught up, but you're going to be moving at a slower pace as opposed to getting T-boned at that 45 miles per hour that you're going through. No left turn crossing conflicts. So this deals with pedestrians and traffic. So you don't have to worry about someone at a stoplight. You have the white crossing to go. That doesn't account for people turning red on right, or it doesn't count people turning left from the opposite road. So you have another, even though you're in a safe crossing, you still have potential traffic coming across you. And then driver's attention is focused on the roadway, not at the signals. This could do a lot of things. This could be driver's attention is focused on anything. There's so many distractions with all the technology in our cars or the technology in our pockets. People aren't as safe of drivers as they used to be. So by the geometry, you have to slow down and make these curves. If you're not paying attention, you're going to hit that curb line before you come into the road and hit a pedestrian that's crossing. Efficiency, I alluded to it a little earlier. It keeps traffic moving. So a lot of us look at intersections as the platooning effect, or you have stacked cars, and you're like, there's no way we can get this amount of traffic through. But you don't have the stacked cars with roundabouts because you can always enter at a yield condition. You don't have to wait that 30 or 60 or 2 minutes for the red light to turn. You're able to get through. Shorter delays and queues limits the amount of stacking. Signals are much less efficient off peak periods. So anyone that goes through the town, the signals are timed for, if you're lucky, it's got 2 or 3 phases of where it has a peak traffic and off peak traffic. You could be sitting at a light for a minute or 2 minutes waiting to turn right or waiting to turn left, and you can't because it's either signed or it's not signaled. Costs. Sometimes if you're doing a roundabout project alone, they are a little more expensive. But in this case, we're already doing street improvements. It's cheaper than a signal because we're already doing the curb line movements as part of the overall road diet. All of these projects are going to be built within the existing right-of-way. Signals have added monthly electrical bills as well as added maintenance costs, which we'll cover on the next slide. Roundabouts have little maintenance required. You just have landscaping or signage. Signals require angle inspections. They require equipment upgrades and repairs, and they can malfunction during power outages. So if you ever have a power outage due to a storm or anything else, this thing will still function. It won't have to go to a flashing red, or it doesn't have to come to an all-way stop. You can still function with or without power. Environmental concerns, there's less air and noise pollution because you're not stopped at the light. You're not idling. Here in this case, we're right by a park. You're not idling in front of the park, having all your emissions come out to the people that are walking through. Less energy consumption because you're not stopping and starting. You're just traveling through. And there's also landscape opportunities. You can do a lot of stuff in the center of the circle. You can do plantings, you can do flowers, you can do pollinator gardens. There's a lot of potential for beautification within the center of the circle. So here we'll come over. I know there's a big concern I mentioned earlier, the potential conflicts locations. This is a roundabout exhibit versus an intersection exhibit. At a single lane roundabout, which is what we're proposing at all 3 intersections, there's 8 vehicle conflict locations, as well as 8 pedestrian conflicts. At a traditional intersection of the same caliber, 1 lane in each direction, you have 32 potential vehicle conflict points and 24 potential pedestrian conflict points. So with these, since there is a lot of pedestrians in the area and there's a big concern of people, we're recommending the installation of rapid flashing beacons. I'm sure, are you guys familiar with those? What those are? You see them a lot of times at schools or church crossings or where there's a lot of heavy pedestrian activity. There's a button you push on it and it flashes. It grabs the driver's attention, and it's time to allow someone to cross that road. So not only are you able to cross in the intersection as a pedestrian, but also it's that extra visual to grab the driver's attention. With RFBs, this is those countermeasures we're talking about. They can reduce crashes by up to 47% for pedestrians when they're implemented. They also can increase driver motorist yielding rates up to 98%, which is an astounding number. But if you've ever driven past them, you see them, it grabs your attention. When it flashes, it's a bright beacon that flashes for you. Some other safety benefits from a two-way intersection, a two-way stop controlled intersection. The reduction of fatal and injured crashes is 82% it's 82% reduction from a two-way stop to a roundabout. At a signalized intersection, it's a 78% reduction of fatal or injury crashes. So here's the crash data that I'd mentioned. There's 191 crashes in this project corridors that we're studying right now. Of those, you have 7 serious injuries, 12 minor injuries, 16 potential injuries, which adds up to 18.3% injury percentage. That's a pretty high number for this area. Also on the side, you can add up the number of crashes. We have 2 ped cycle crashes, 4 pedestrian crashes, as well as, so that's just your ped crossings right there. So that's already indicating that you have an issue with pedestrians and crossing the intersections. As well as the different type of crashes. You have a high number of angle, left, or right turning crashes. Those are all the ones that were said that roundabouts will help mitigate because you're not making those left-hand turns or those right-hand turns. So this is another version showing the frequency of those type of crashes. Of the angle, left, and right turning, the roundabout would mitigate 96% of those. So that's a 49% reduction of crashes if the roundabout was implemented in those study data years. This is a crash showing the crashes over the 5-year period that we studied. If you look, it's a pretty even and consistent over the 5 years. So it's not a spike. You're having a bad year one year. It's pretty solid of every year you're having between 30 and 40 crashes. And what's that? It's hard to read. That's the blue is property damage only, and the red is injury crashes. So you're getting 30 to 40 property damage crashes, and every year getting between 5 and 7 injury crashes along the corridor. So that's part of this is one of the reasons why we're recommending a road diet. It'll help narrow the roadway so you have less crossing width if you are crossing. Road diets work. It's going to be hard for you to read, but if you see the printout or on the online version, it will be easier. This is kind of the traffic numbers, which it kind of shows anywhere between 7,000 to 8,000 vehicles on Water Street, and then you got another 4,000 on Chiillicothe. So those are relatively low numbers, especially for a 2-lane in each direction roadway. Typically, a road diet, which is 1 lane in each direction with a 2A left turn lane, can handle 25,000 vehicles ADT. So you're about 3 or 4 times less than that on this corridor alone. And a prime example is on Western. I don't know if this has a laser pointer. No, on Western, just to the west of this project, you're at it's a functioning 2-lane roadway right now, 1 in each direction. It has 16,000 ADT, and talking with the city, there's not really an issue with traffic or congestion in that area. So the number of lanes that you have in the Water Street area is really hard, and that can in itself lead to potential accidents or pedestrian issues due to the available. Sometimes you want to have just enough capacity. If you have too much capacity, then you have people speeding up to go around, or you have people that are gunning around the slow-moving car, making unsafe traffic maneuvers. The info stat there shows the safety benefit of a 4-lane to 3-lane conversion can reduce total crashes from anywhere from 19 to 47%. There's a lot of different varieties of, are you adding bike lanes, are you adding sidewalks, what's going on there? So that's why there's a little bit of a range in those. So now we come to the road project that we're doing. So that's all the safety and stat driven that brought us to the decision to make the recommended improvements that we are. So as you can see, we're recommending a road diet on Water Street, which is an existing 4-lane section that will be reduced to 1 lane in each direction with a 2A left turn lane. We're recommending a road diet on Chiillicothe Parkway, which again is an existing 4-lane road with a bike lane on either side. We are going to keep the bike lanes. It'll just be down to a 1 lane in each direction with a 2A left turn lane. Reconstruction of Mulberry Street. It's a brick street. We will be putting back a brick street, just evening it out, make it more safe and a level surface for people walking and crossing. Riverside Drive improvements. We're going to be, it's going to be a 2-lane roadway from Bridge Street down to the park entrance. And then we're recommending roundabouts at Mill Street and Chiillicothe, which is the upper top of the graphic, the western entrance to the park, the intersection of Chiillicothe and Water, which is kind of that lower left corner, and then Paint and Water, which is at the bottom of the screen there. And the reason for this is we mentioned the goal is to increase efficiency of traffic moving through and around the park. We want to avoid people trying to use the park as a cut through to get around to go north up to the highway. So if we make a more efficient traffic network for people to go around through, they don't have to wait at lights unnecessarily. They can get up and around through the park and not have to need to use the park as a cut through. We want people to come to the park. We want people to enjoy the park. But the people that come and enjoy it, we want them to stay there. We don't want them to drive through, because that makes unsafe conditions for people that are using the park, people that are walking or kids that are running between playground equipment and stuff. So we want to improve the outer network to make it safer and more efficient for people to go around. So that's the recommended improvements we have here. So we'll do a quick blow up of the intersection. So this is the intersection of Paint and Water. This is kind of our 2D graphic of what's going in. We're still in the process of evaluating parking improvements, but this fits within the existing right-of-way. It's a single-lane roundabout with a single-lane exit and entry. It's a 110-foot inscribed diameter, so that's outer circle. So where the splitter islands are, the yellow lines that go around there, or sorry, the white lines that go around there, those are 110-foot diameter. It's a 17-foot circulating lane. So when we look at the circulating lanes, we look at potential traffic that could use it. Emergency, there's a truck size that would be on there, as well as the general user. A lot of times on here, we design interior roadways for WB62, which is a 40-foot track or 48-foot tractor trailer. We know there's a fire station just down the side here. We talked with the fire department, got their vehicle sizes, and ran the templates through the roundabout. They work without any issue. This would include a 10-foot truck apron. That's the red circle in the center. That's not a pedestrian walkway. That's not meant for people to be up. That's strictly for the trucks when they're circulating the roundabout. The cab stays within the pavement. The tractor trailer will hop up as it's making that sweeping movement to allow it to track and not rut up the center. Some people get confused and they're like, why do you have a sidewalk in the middle? It's not meant for a sidewalk. It's meant for trucks or large vehicle equipment to track on through there. So those typically have like a 2-inch reveal on them. So you'll have a curb down there. So there's not a lot of, it used to be when I first started, there was 6-inch. So you'd have trucks that come up and they'd hit the curb and they'd be low jostling. And working with the trucking associations, they've dropped it down to discourage pedestrians, or not pedestrian, passenger vehicles and other smaller equipment that doesn't need to be up there, discourage them from hopping up on using it, but still allowing those trucks to track across without jostling. The other thing, school buses are sized, or this roundabout size, so the school bus can circulate the entire roundabout within the pavement. They don't need to use the truck apron, so there's no load shifting of kids on the bus. It's they're able to sit within the asphalt without being moved, although some kids would probably enjoy that as the ride home. I know my kids would. And also the installation of the rapid flashing beacons at the crosswalk. Through the ProWAG, which is kind of the right-of-way public, I forget the actual name of the acronym, but it's essentially what you do for pedestrians with disabilities or with crossings. They recommend at single-lane intersections, just the sign. You don't need the rapid flashing beacons, but knowing that this is a heightened area where we're going to have a lot of pedestrians, we're going to have a lot of younger families with kids moving through there, we're recommending that we include these, even though they're not necessarily recommended. We want to include this as an extra safety measure. If you had a multi-lane entrance, then some sort of pedestrian mitigation would be needed, whether it's a raised crosswalk or a hawk system or another type of flashing beacon. But with this, a single lane, you don't need it, but we're recommending it just because it's an added safety feature. Here's a couple examples of downtown environments of where they do have single lane roundabouts with pedestrians crossing. It's not as scary as it sounds. A lot of people are intimidated by them, but being in a downtown environment where traffic's moving slow through our geometry and through our road dieting, it's actually a pleasant walkthrough as it goes to crossing, like I said, 6 lanes at a time. This location is in Newark, Ohio. I'll show some more stats about this. They did a similar project to what you guys are doing or proposing to do down here. They have a downtown square as well as 4th Street, which has 2 roundabouts on the well, and they are really happy with the final results. So the next one is the Mill Street and Chiillicothe Parkway. This is a single lane roundabout with single lane entry and exits. This is a 100-foot inscribed diameter. We had to shrink it a little bit to fit within the right of way. It still has a 17-foot circulating lane and a 10-foot truck apron. We are recommending rapid flashing beacons at this intersection as well, due to the public school being nearby and the amount of kids that could be walking from school to the park or down Chiillicothe Parkway. We do open back up to the 4 lanes at the northern intersection just north of here. So by the time you get to the school intersection, we'll be back open to 4 where you're at currently. There's a picture of a bus circulating a roundabout. These will be sized, like I said, to fit school buses so they don't need to use the truck aprons. This is Water Street in Chiillicothe Parkway. This is a single lane entry with a 95-foot inscribed diameter. We had to do a smaller one of this area because we had buildings that were encroaching close to the right-of-way. I believe in the southeast corner, the building actually sits right on the right-of-way line. We had to move it to the north a little bit, which had to shrink our circle. it still fits the design vehicle that we're looking for. We have a 17-foot circulating lane. We have a little wider truck apron here because we have a smaller radius. Also recommending rapid flashing beacons here. And the snippet on the bottom there is the bike lanes. So we have bike lanes just to the north. With roundabouts, you can either exit the bike lane onto the walk there, walk your bike around, or if you feel comfortable, you can take the lane and drive in the roundabout as a traffic or as a normal passenger vehicle would. There's plenty of people here that are comfortable doing that, and there's plenty of people that aren't. So there are two options that are using throughout the state and throughout the country, really. For people where we have bike lanes that don't want to take the lane, they want to get off and use the sidewalk to go through the circle. Am I speaking too fast? Sometimes I can get on a roll. Okay. This is a typical section of Chiillicothe Parkway. Like I said, we got one lane in each direction with a two-way left turn lane. Still have bike lanes on either side to the north. We'll have a sidewalk on both sides. The right-of-way width varies tremendously there. It goes from 60 to 100 feet throughout the corridor. So at some points, the sidewalk may have to come into the roadway. If it does come and butts up against the curb, we widen it to allow for that shy distance that people want to stay away from curb traffic. Where there is space to fit, we have a tree lawn that will buffer the sidewalk from the bike lane and the pedestrian traffic. This is Water Street. This is kind of in the downtown business area. So this would be the road diet, one lane in each direction with a two-way left turn lane. We've got parallel parking on the north side, similar to what is today. We'll have angle parking on the south side, similar as is today. With the road diet, we're providing more of a wider walkway for if we can do multiple things. You could have a dedicated bike lane or a multi-use path through there. There was talk of doing a cultural trail through the area, or we can have just a wider space so that businesses, through working with the city, if you want to have an outdoor cafe space or some sort of event space outside of here, you have more space to do that. In addition to the amount of increased pedestrians and increased traffic in the area, we're looking to create a more pedestrian walkable community in the downtown district here. So this is a snippet of like the commercial area. Water Street outside of the commercial area would go back to parallel parking on both sides of the road with a two-way left turn lane and one lane in each direction. I believe that's 65 feet, remember Sam? It's on there. My eyes are going bad, so I can't read it. That's a narrower right away. That's why we only have parallel parking on each side. This is kind of the curb bump outs that we talked about. This is to help reduce that pedestrian crossing. So we're going to have protected parking. So if you're coming through there, you're not going to rear end right into the first car that's parked around the side. You're going to circulate around the curb island there. It helps reduce the amount of crossing width that you have for pedestrians, as well as, like I said, protects that parked car that's along the side there. There is, for the Ohio Revised Code, it has to be a certain distance back from the crosswalk. So that's why you see these little longer bump outs. You can't have cars parked right on top of the pedestrians. You want that driver to be able to pick them up before they come to the stoplight. So you have a little bit of wider space on the side you're coming to a stop to. When you're leaving, you see the pedestrian before you get through there, so you can have a little shorter out on that side. But I think for this illustration, we showed it equal on either side. This is Mulberry Street. This is where we're putting the brick pavement back. Again, we have pedestrians on both sides. It is a little bit narrower right away, and there is some elevation in there. So to avoid having retaining walls or stuff up along people's property, we have the sidewalks in along the back of curb. And that will allow grading room to tie into the existing right-of-way, or tie in the slopes to the existing right-of-way where we are. If it's needed because there's too big of a gap, then we could look into retaining walls, but I don't believe that's the case at this moment. And then the last one here is Riverside. This is one car in each direction, room. There's ample room for pedestrians on either side of the roadway there. This is kind of along the flood wall, as well as the flood wall would be to the left of the screen. So, as I mentioned, the city of Newark, they did a similar project. I talked with their city engineer. We've been going back and forth with data that they've collected from their project, as well as just what their thoughts of the process and how it went through. They had a 4th Street project and a downtown project, which is where the red arrows are pointing. There's 2 roundabouts on 4th Street, and then there's 4 in that downtown square. They converted traditional signalized intersections to roundabouts. They converted a 4-lane roadway into a 3-lane roadway diet. So with that, the city, after the project was completed, they conducted a survey of the area residents and business owners, 110 of them, or sorry, 111 of them, after the project was fully completed. They asked, I think there's 8 questions, so I'll kind of go through each one of these where they're at. On a scale 1 to 10, how receptive were you to the plan of converting the traffic signal to a roundabout? Before, 24% thought it was negative, 76 were for it. After, 11 were negative, and 89 were for it. So you had an increase of 13-14% of people's changed perception just after it was opened, from the positive, obviously reduction on the negative side. Same question, how many people rated it 10? Remember, 1 is least favorable, 10 was most favorable. Before, you had 40%. After the project was completed, it was 64%. So a 24% increase in people's perception of the most favorable option after it was completed. On a scale 1 to 10, how receptive were you to the plan of convert roundabouts from signals to traffics? 41% thought they would improve the situation. 5% thought it would worsen it. How do you feel on-street parking has changed since the completion of the project? Perceived change in availability parking, 52% believe it increased, 32% believe it decreased. Change in feeling of safety. How do you feel driving and walking has changed since the project's completed? Driving in red is more safe, in purple is less safe. Driving is 50%, 57% more safe, 13% less safe. Walking is 59% more safe and 9% less safe. Perceived change in number of crashes. How do you think the number of traffic accidents have changed? 56% thought it was a decrease, and 5% thought it was an increase. I'll have another stat on that later. How do you think your properties have changed as a result of this project? Property values, 60% believe it improved it, 1% believe it reduced it. Economic impact, 87% believe it improved the economic area of the downtown, and 7% thought it worsened. The number of crashes per location. So this is the downtown 4 roundabouts. There was a 58% reduction. These are actual crash data. A 58% crash reduction, 100% injury crash reduction, and 100% ped or cycle reduction. So there's no injury crashes and there's no ped cycle or ped pedestrian crossing intersection crashes. And then this is the 4th Street. This is just crashes because they didn't have as high of a pedestrian area. There was a 34% reduction of total accidents, a 5% reduction in property damage only accidents, and 100% reduction in injury accidents. So a lot of this goes to show that you don't have the injury accidents because you're traveling at a much slower speed. And when you travel at a much slower speed, it's a safer environment for people to walk. People feel more comfortable walking into the lane when they know traffics are moving slower. And if there is an accident, it's typically property damage only, meaning it's a fender bender, or they're coming to slow speed where they bump into each other, and there's not the jostle that you have with an injury-related crash. And with that, that's my data slides. Parking, yes. So we're in the process of looking at the parking to the area. We've done several iterations of the downtown parking, where we can gain, where spots will be removed. A net loss of 2 parking spots through the project. With the park improvement itself, there's an additional 400 spots being added inside the park. So there's space for people to drive to the park, and if they're at the park and they don't want to walk across the street to the downtown environment. We provide a safe location for that. But in the street, we're working to make sure we're squeezing every spot that we can out of it. So I think we're down to a -2 right now, but we're still got to see if we can squeeze a couple more in there to make it a net zero. Any other things? Excuse me?
All right, hold on. I got Ben Daughters up next. If you're done with your presentation, then
Yes.
we're going to come back for questions. So Ben, if you want to go ahead and give your thing here, and then we'll roll into questions here.
Hey. All right. Well, City Council members, American Structure Point, and my fellow community members, good evening. My name is Ben Daughters, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak this evening. I probably should start off by saying that many of the concerns that I'm going to share with everyone tonight have been touched on already by American Structure Point, but I think it's really important that we reinforce the concerns of the community that we're hearing from. So thank you, City Council, for organizing this meeting and taking the opportunity to listen to our community. My wife and I own a restaurant on 2nd Street here in downtown called the Pour House at Machinery Hall, and I currently have the privilege of serving as the board president of downtown Chiillicothe. I'm here tonight not to speak on behalf of my business, but rather on behalf of downtown Chiillicothe. Downtown Chiillicothe is a 501c3 organization affiliated with the Main Street Program and Heritage Ohio. Founded in 2018, our mission is to preserve the historic charm of our downtown while fostering economic development. We work on issues like promoting our downtown district, shaping its physical space, and addressing legislative concerns. Our board consists of 20 volunteers with a wide range of backgrounds, from business owners to local leaders and concerned citizens. We advocate for over 125 property owners, 300 businesses, and more than 100 residents, and we're committed to advancing the downtown ecosystem for everyone's benefit. I'm here this evening to share some important concerns from our community. First, I think it's important that we express our appreciation to Governor DeWine and the Ohio State Legislature for their investment in our region. Their support through the ACGP funding is a generational opportunity to drive growth and pride in our community. We'd also like to thank our state representatives, county and city leaders, and everyone working hard behind the scenes to make this investment a reality. We all agree that this is a huge moment for Chiillicothe. With that said, as we look towards proposed changes to Water Street, it's only natural to approach them with an open mind, but also a sense of responsibility. Change often brings concern, and it's important that we listen to those concerns before moving forward. I'd like to share 6 of the most common ones that we've heard from the community regarding the proposed changes. First, parking utilization. Parking in downtown has always been a challenge. While most view a bustling downtown as a good problem to have, many business owners and customers worry about any reduction in parking. Any move that reduces parking could be seen as a threat to businesses' success. We all agree that parking must be a part of the solution, not the problem. Number 2, traffic flow and safety. When 2nd Street transitioned from one-way to two-way traffic in October 2021, many were initially concerned. But with thoughtful planning and community input, we saw a major improvement. Traffic slowed, pedestrian safety increased, delivery vehicles do not impede the flow of traffic, and the aesthetic appeal at the intersection of Paint and 2nd Street was dramatically improved. With Water Street, we have similar concerns, specifically pedestrian safety and walkability, the potential impact on deliveries to businesses, and the ability for motorists to navigate our downtown. There are also concerns with how traffic control changes such as roundabouts might affect traffic flow and pedestrian safety. Many fear confusion at roundabouts and worry about accidents, as well as safety concerns of pedestrians navigating a continuous traffic flow. We want to make sure that whatever changes are made, improve the experience for drivers and pedestrians, keep our businesses running smoothly, and most importantly, enhance the walkability of our downtown. Number 3, connecting the park to downtown. A major concern in our downtown right now is the physical divide between North and South Paint Streets due to 4-lane vehicle volume and the speed of traffic on Main Street. While the improvements to the park will undoubtedly attract more visitors, there's a risk that Water Street could become another divider, preventing foot traffic from flowing freely between the park and downtown businesses. We must ensure that improvements benefit both the park and the businesses that make up the heart of our downtown. Number 4, business disruptions. We also need to be mindful of the construction process. Downtown businesses are the backbone of our community, and any prolonged disruption, especially following the challenges posed by ongoing COVID recovery, could have serious consequences. Limited access, blocked storefronts, and delays in deliveries could strain already vulnerable businesses. Small businesses in particular cannot afford months of lost revenue. Number 5, preserving our historic charm. One of the things that makes downtown Chiillicothe special is its historic character. Changes that disrupt the aesthetic appeal or historical integrity of the district could harm the very thing that makes it attractive to visitors and locals alike. We need to ensure that any changes complement the downtown's unique charm and not detract from it. Number 6, lack of stakeholder input. Finally, there is a sense of frustration among many business owners and stakeholders about a lack of communication in the design process. Many of us, my wife and I included, have risked everything to open a business in this downtown because we believe in its potential. When changes are proposed that might impact our livelihood, and we feel decisions are being made without our input, it creates fear and uncertainty. It's important that candid communication flows freely and stakeholder feedback is incorporated into the plan. As our downtown continues to recover from the impacts of COVID, the ACGP is a crucial opportunity for growth and continued revitalization. But to succeed, we must ensure that changes are made with all stakeholders in mind. Our downtown is a vibrant, historic district, and it's essential that we protect and enhance its character while positioning ourselves for the future. Downtown Chiillicothe Incorporated is eager to work with all parties involved to find solutions that work for everyone. We are committed to putting facts before feelings. Let's keep the lines of communication open, listen to each other, and work together to make sure that these changes benefit our community as a whole. Thank you again for your time this evening, and we look forward to collaborating with you all on this project.
Thank you, Ben. Okay, at this time I want to open up discussion about the road changes, and in particular I'm talking about the road diet on Water Street. So are there questions that anybody has about going from 4 lanes to 2 lanes with a center turn lane and what impact that'll have on us? Yeah. Lisa, you want to grab it and kind of hand it to people?
I'm just curious about the center turn lane and exactly where the benefit to that comes from. It seems like weights and space. I'm just curious about kind of how that benefits. It's not a lot of turning. I mean, it's angled parking, so I'm just curious as to what the turn lane does for that area.
Good question. So there are driveways on the south side. So if that's vehicles that are coming westbound on Water, that allow them to pull in there. If there is a stream of traffic that's coming eastbound, allow them to get out of the lane to allow people to keep going through. It also allows for, if there are delivery vehicles that are parked in that through lane, it allows a lane for people to drive around the vehicles or the delivery vehicles to keep going.
I think also it helps at the intersections, helps move that traffic out of that lane to where vehicles can continue going straight down the road without having to worry about a vehicle in front of them turning left. So I think that does help to keep that traffic flowing. Okay, another question? I know we had another hand up. Yes.
I have 2 questions. The first one is, where are we going to get deliveries? Because the back access is to most of the building. There isn't any.
I made the mistake of turning it off. I'll just leave it on.
There's a lot of businesses that don't have any back access, nothing.
Yeah, they would still be able to get access off of Water Street. You just, like I said, the delivery vehicle would park in that through lane, and then the traffic that's heading eastbound or westbound, depending on where it's parked, would use the 2-way left turn to go around them.
Except we have tenants downtown that you can't pull a semi in if the tenant is parked there.
Well, depending on how long your delivery is, it happens in downtown environments all the time where you park and then there may be a.
Come up to the mic to answer.
I actually,
He's on the mic. Okay, well, it's not really good.
Can you hear me now?
Linda, turn that one off. That's why you can't hear, because that one's still on.
Can you hear me now?
I,
Yeah. So deliveries, as they assume now, are parked or they stop on Water Street to unload, and then traffic. Just like we're not changing that pattern at all. We're just reducing the number of through lanes from 2 to 1, and you'd use that 2-way left turn lane to go around any delivery vehicles at the time.
okay, second question is, how would it affect the fire department?
That's, I said, we discussed with the fire department their vehicle sizes. We modeled the roundabouts to be able to accommodate their large vehicles. You still have the wide exit out of their building as you have today, so it works fine.
So it might work fine, but I mean, you're talking about the projection of slowing down traffic.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to slow down traffic, I live on Water Street. That is an immediate access on both ways for that fire truck to get through there. So now you're down to one lane. Now they're slowed down. I mean, actually 4 times. If you're going out towards Western, you're going to get slowed down 4 times for our emergency vehicles to get to these. I mean, we hear it 3 to 4 times a day.
Yeah.
So if you've slowed down that traffic, now you've slowed down what you say is supposed to be the safety of the community.
Which
lanes are you talking? Where are you talking about? They're slowing down at the
So
intersections.
every roundabout that they have to go around, they have to slow down.
So, being the retired fire chief, at every intersection, they should be slowing and be ready to come to a complete stop at every intersection currently. So, every intersection slows them down now. A roundabout is not really going to change the amount of time. It just changes.
But until you have 4 cars in front of them that have to go through the roundabout at 25 miles per hour to get out of the way, down 4 projected roundabouts.
And we see that at current intersections. You have people that will pull into them and stop in front of you, that will turn left in front of
But
you.
now you're down to 2 lanes, Jeff, instead of
I
4
understand
lanes
that.
where they can go around. And this is just from living on that street and seeing what happens, because you have them going both ways. And I understand what you're trying to say, but living on that street and seeing what happens,
Right.
the amount of time that it's going to take to get there, now you're putting people's lives in jeopardy because you want to slow down traffic to 25 miles per hour, but the street's already 25 miles per hour.
Correct. Yeah. So, and they would still have that entire length. They would have a 3rd lane in the middle that they can go around the traffic when it stops, as they're required to by law.
True, but until you have those 4
We're
cars.
not changing the law that you have to slow down and yield to emergency vehicles. You
I'm
do
not
that.
talking, right,
and
I
then
understand,
you use
but
the
can you
2-way left
understand
turn
what I'm
lane to go
saying?
through there.
Right,
Yeah,
but can you
it'll be-
understand the concerns of the people that live in the community?
I can understand why you think that, and we're trying to explain via data that you have to stop.
No, it's not that I think it, I live it every single day. So I take great offense to that.
Okay.
So I'm done.
All right.
Yeah. Here.
Sorry. So I think what she's getting at is if you have people going into the roundabout, you have one lane that's going around, right?
Correct.
And if there's a fire truck coming, people are going to just stop because that's natural reaction. So if you have 4 cars, where does the fire truck go? Because there is no other lane once you get to the roundabout, right? I think that's what, am I right? Thank you.
The traffic law is if you're in a roundabout, you exit the roundabout and then you yield. But there's also the mountable truck apron that if someone does come to a stop, the vehicle can get up and around over there. So there's no increase in unsafe activities through there. It's just yes, and it's education. We'll have to. A lot of communities put information on their city websites of how to use roundabouts, how to behave in there, because they're new to a lot of areas. There's plenty of communities that have hundreds of them and they work just fine. Okay. I'm yeah. 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 So.
Question on the roads?
No.
Okay,
Well,
we're still
yes.
on the roads.
What's on the roads? Yes.
Yes.
So when you start this construction of the roundabouts, how long are you looking for this, and what roads are going to be closed? Are they going to be completely closed? Because that's very crucial, you know, for us, all of us downtown, most of the business owners.
100% agree. That's a big concern. A lot of communities, especially businesses owners in construction areas. We are not proposing to close Water Street or Yaktangi. They'll be open to traffic through construction. Now, there may be partial intersection closures as they're doing some of the curb lines, but it is a downtown network where you have a street grid, so you just have to go one street over and around during that minor closure. But it would be restricted just to the intersection itself. We're still working with the construction manager on the phasing of how this will be built, so I don't have the exact answer now, but it will be a partial phased construction of the roads where access will be maintained to all businesses via pedestrian sidewalks or a roadway.
Section's going to be closed 6 months, a year?
No,
I mean,
I saw the comments of the roads being closed for 6 months. That's not factual. There's no data supporting that. The road will be maintained during construction. There will be intersection closures potentially to 30 days. We have to work with the contractor on what he can build while they're maintaining it. But yes, there may be some closures. You can maintain traffic through roundabouts. It just elongates the construction period time because you have to have a bunch of temporary pavement, and that's much more disruptive to businesses downtown. So we're trying to avoid that. And it's I want to say the old adage of a Band-Aid, you can rip it off fast. There'll be a 30-day closure or whatever the time frame is. So we're still working with the contract there, or you could delay it out for the course of a year where you're restricting traffic to get this built in phases.
Can we pick the Band-Aid date? Can we do January?
Yeah. So some of that is by materials, so you can't do asphalt in the wintertime. But yes, we're working with them on the construction. The bigger part of this too is all of this construction has to be completed by October of 26. We're starting to we're wrapping up the road designs. I think they're I'll talk the last I knew they were starting in the fall of this year on the roads, and then would be completed by the following fall. So to know which particular intersection is closed when, I can't tell you that at this time. But we are planning on maintaining traffic through the construction zone for pedestrians and vehicles.
Are you doing all of them at the same time?
No, it would be staggered. I should say that's the plan. We still have to work with the contractor to make sure what the final outcome is, because they're the ones actually constructing it.
Okay, let me come back to the roads. Any more comments on the roads, not the intersections? Go ahead.
First, I don't need that. First, welcome. My first question is kind of simple. The entrance to the park, what would be the description of the Enderlin Monument?
So right now the Enderlin Monument is planned to be put to the center circle. So it would be on display in the center of the roundabout.
The best thing I've heard you say so far all afternoon, you shouldn't cut through.
Correct.
When this whole plan came up, I went to that meeting. And everybody who would listen to me, I said, yeah, why do you have to drive through your Enderlin Drive? Folks, I don't have enough fingers on my hand to tell you how many contracts.
Okay, so we're gonna have a separate meeting on the roads interior for the park. So when we have that, I'd like to have that question then, so that we can have that discussion. Yeah. We haven't decided that yet, so that'll be a separate meeting where we'll talk about the roads interior to the park. I think we've kind of transitioned into the intersections, unless anybody else has anything just specific for the roads, because I think our two retired police officers, we've talked about it, and we kind of like the road diet, that it slows the traffic down a little bit. I've talked with the fire chief. He does not have issues with the fire trucks responding on the road diet or through a roundabout. Of course, we're not to that point yet, but so we have had those discussions with some of our community leaders as well. Janet?
American structure of
point that they've done, PowerPoint. And when I first went, it was discussed that the roads of Water Street and the roundabouts would be the last thing that was addressed because you were working on the armory and the inside of the park. What money was left over was supposed to go, if we had money, towards this project. Why is this project brought up first? And it's the first of the meetings if you are not planning on doing it until last.
So let me try and address how I think you're asking it. We had, through this funding grant, we got, as Michael had mentioned in the beginning, there's 3 separate sources: the buildings in the park itself, and the roads. Through the design process and the amenities that are chosen, stuff that's going through there, we may have to move funding between roads or the park to cover the overages or underages of the buildings in the park. So what we were stating previously is that of the priority, the buildings were number 1, the park improvements were number 2, and the roads were number 3. Not that they weren't going to be built or that they will, it depends on the available funding. We have a set amount of money for the road improvements that covers all the stuff that we showed in there. It just depends on the amenities that are chosen for the buildings or what those final construction dollars come to, because we're using engineering budget dollars right now. Once we get the final construction dollars of it, then we can better apply what is feasibly done with the roadway network.
You realize that the people that are sitting here tonight, they have a reason to be concerned. They're the downtown businesses. You also realize that there has been concerns that have never been addressed about the buildings and what's going on inside the park, and we've never had the opportunity to express ourselves. We had what you called in November, the end of November, a presentation where you were allowed to go around and see the drawings that you did, but we never got an actual public meeting on those or on the inside of the park. And that's what we should have first, in my estimation.
Thank you, Janet. And tonight we're here just to talk about the exterior roads of the park. I know there's other things that we need to talk about as well, but the focus of this meeting is those roads, those intersections. So at this point, I don't think Tony went into great detail. At Mulberry and Riverside, they're talking about getting rid of that center island and making that intersection cleaner. And then I think Ray Street would come out onto Riverside instead of come into that intersection.
Correct. Yeah, we would remove right now as you're heading west on Riverside, you kind of have that weird median in the middle between the right and through and left lanes. And when we were out in the sight line, people were in the right turning lane and were turning left out of it. It was just confusing. It's not really a geometrically correct intersection. So we're going to go through, remove that divider. The road is going to be shifted up slightly to the north, into staying within the right of way, but moving north from where it is to allow for Ray Street to turn 90 degrees and connect into Riverside before the intersection. Excuse me. So it's not like a 5-point intersection. It would be a traditional 4 with the Ray Street, which is a one-way entering in off there after you enter through the intersection.
Okay, so any questions about that intersection? I think that's probably the easiest one to handle, then we'll move on. On that intersection?
Well, on the intersections, these things are all brought about on intersections.
Can I talk about Mulberry first and make sure I get past that one?
Okay.
I just want to keep one topic at a time so that we keep moving. Ed, did you have a comment? Okay. Okay. Correct, yes.
We don't hurry up and do what they say, lose the money. No public what's going on with all aspects. They are tied.
Oh, I agree they're tied together, but this meeting, oh, I agree. But I want to try to get resolution or get the questions asked of what we came to talk about tonight, because there's a lot of people came to talk about that road network. So I'd like to move on to the Water Street and Paint Street intersection. I know you guys are intimately in the middle of that.
Just address what he said. Ed, that's a very good comment and question about circulation in the park. And you rightly pointed out, sometimes you just want to drive through the park. And I think we've all done that. We all know why we want to drive through the park. It's very nice. It's pretty. There's peoples around. There's trees, all of that. The alternative, also why you want to drive through the park, is you have to navigate 3 different stoplights, traffic backups, large overbuilt roadways. I want to point us back again to one of our key pieces of data. Water Street and Yoctangi Parkway were built to have a capacity to handle 25,000 cars a day. And right now, there's between 4,000 and 7,000 cars a day on those roadways. They're over capacity, which means that there are traffic queues that are potentially too long at signal intersections. Cars go very fast. It's not a pleasant driving experience. So while I agree with you wholeheartedly that it is nice to drive through the park, part of the point of why we're proposing these improvements is to make it nicer to drive on Yoctangi Parkway and Water Street, and to do it in such a way where traffic moves in a much more flowing condition, and where you have amenities, and we all saw those renderings on the screen of nice brick sidewalks, of trees, of greenery. We're talking still back and forth about, some potential areas of medians in certain places. Like, we want to bring the park to the street grid as much as. So, and if you'd like to, as a real quick comment on that, I would say that this has been a 2-year process. We have had extensive public engagement and multiple sessions with the public where feedback has been taken.
Okay, can I come back to the intersection? Because as a committee chair, I need to get answers to these questions so that the committee makes good decisions. And our focus is on that exterior road network. So if you guys, I know you guys, Ivies, you guys are right on that middle of that intersection. Kind of give us your feedback, please.
Hey everybody, my name is Melissa Huggins. This is my husband Steve. We own Ivy's Home and Garden, and the business has been a cornerstone of downtown for over 26 years. We are on the corner of Water and Paint Street, and we are directly affected by these proposed traffic changes. We have worked hard to create a thriving business, setting year-over-year records for the 6 consecutive years that we have owned Ivy's. Last year, we committed to a long-term lease by signing a 10-year lease, investing in our future here. But if this roundabout moves forward, we fear that we may be forced to relocate because this could create significant financial hardships for us. We would first also, like Ben, express our appreciation for everyone's hard work who has put into bringing visitors to our community and creating plans that will beautify our downtown. While we appreciate all of the efforts to improve infrastructure, this roundabout presents serious risks to our business. We are asking that this committee vote no on this proposal. In regards to the deliveries, Ivy's receives over 300 deliveries per year from over 100 different suppliers. Currently, UPS, FedEx, and freight carriers unload on the north side of our building on Water Street, just 20 to 25 feet from our side door. The proposed roundabout eliminates this ability, meaning deliveries will be pushed down the street, I'm guessing, because we haven't seen the actual drawings, about 100 feet. This would result in long carry fees, extra charges, and extra time and labor. And we're estimating this could add up to $40,000 in additional cost to our business. Longer transport distances means increased risk of products being damaged and handling and exposure to the elements. Snow, rain, ice will only make this worse. Beyond deliveries, parking is one of our biggest concerns we hear from Ivy's family every day. Eliminating most of the parking on Water Street will significantly impact our customers. We have a customer base that can't walk from the park to our store and carry $700 worth of paintings that are bigger than me to their car. It's just not possible. That happened on Saturday. We had a customer buy $700 in paintings larger than me, and they parked right outside of our door, so we were able to put those in her car. If you're getting rid of all of these parking spaces, but only technically 2, but you're putting all the parking spaces in the park, it doesn't help me. It doesn't help those customers. So our records indicate that 88% of our sales come from repeat customers. So 27% of them shop with us monthly, some of them weekly. These are loyal customers who depend on easy access to our store. These proposed changes also eliminate our curbside pickup option that many of our repeat customers take advantage of on a daily basis or a weekly basis. Making parking more difficult could drive them away from downtown entirely. We've heard from so many people and our customers, I avoid roundabouts. Another concern is the time of construction. When we spoke to you in November, 6 months was mentioned. So that's where 6 months came from. So that's where we came up with that. Any time closing, 30 days, whatever, is a detrimental, it's an issue for our business. At Ivy's, we have 25 employees and we have approximately 100,000 guests that walk through our door every year. Construction around our building, closing down our streets, blocking our parking will force people to avoid this area. We know this is true because when the feast comes and different things, our regular customers will not come downtown. They will avoid downtown like the plague. They will not come. So we have already invested $200,000 in holiday merchandise that is going to start coming to our store this summer. So if we can't get those deliveries because of construction or whatever, that's an issue. If we get the deliveries, but our customers can't park to get to our store to buy that merchandise, how do we pay for those invoices? That is a scary, scary thing for somebody who's all in. So we understand that roundabouts are used to keep people moving so traffic doesn't get backed up. Having lived in Chiillicothe my whole life and working in downtown for the last 6 years, I've never seen traffic backed up from one intersection to the next. It just doesn't happen on Water Street. But to your point, we don't want traffic to keep moving. We want traffic to stop. We want them to have a chance to look at my beautifully decorated windows on the corner of Water and Paint and our beautiful flowers. And we want them to say, hey, that's beautiful. I'm going to stop. I'm going to find a parking spot. And I'm going to come visit that shop, and then we're going to send them to every other business downtown. We are asking City Council to vote no on this proposal. Ivy's is invested in this location for the long haul. We have signed a 10-year lease because we believe in downtown Chiillicothe. But if this roundabout moves forward, the financial burden to us and operational challenge could force us to relocate. Infrastructure improvements should support, not hurt local businesses. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anything else on that intersection? Maybe a question or go ahead.
At Water and Paint? Yeah, that's part of the application we put in gateway improvements to the park. So this is to slow people down, like you said. We're not trying to make people rush through the intersection, slowing them down to see the park there. It's a beautification. It's allowing people safe access to and around, out of the park, into the park, walking to and from the park, walking around the business areas in the park. And I want to address a couple things that you stated. The 6 month may have came from the total construction window of the corridor, not the road's going to be closed for 6 months. And also, the net 2 parking spots we're at now is on the street, not including the park parking. So we're down to a net 2 loss on the streets where we're at. We're still working through those. They're not final designs yet. Correct. As we had mentioned, we started design in January of this corridor. We have trying to get completed by May so that contractor get moving this summer, or summer, late summer, early fall on it. So yeah, it's an iterative process where what's on the screen is not current as the end of the day. We're constantly moving and designing stuff as we're going. We're trying to hit this at a rapid pace to be able to be constructed in the time frame that we're given. I do not have current rendered drawings that would make sense for the general public to see. This is a typical iteration process of where we're showing where we're at, and we're making corrections through input from the city, through the contractor that's providing overview from the city, from the county, from all the review agencies. This is a typical standard process in design.
Okay. Obviously, we didn't get through everything. We're going to have to come back and have another meeting, obviously. Hopefully at that meeting, we can finish this up with a little bit more information, better drawings, and then also look at the interior roads of the park at the same time. So that's my commitment to you guys, is that we will have a second review meeting to have more discussion before we have a committee meeting to start making decisions. So, so that we can get ready for our council meeting, I'm going to go ahead and close now. And I know a lot of people didn't get a chance to talk, and I apologize. Again, we want to focus on the roads here. I know there's a lot of passion about the park, and that those discussions need to keep going. Council does not have a say in that other than accepting the grant money and appropriating the grant money. But we do control the roads and the intersections, so we'll continue to look at this and make sure that we're making the right decisions for Chiillicothe, or try to make sure we're making the right decisions for Chiillicothe as we move forward. So we will have another meeting. Please, I know that we didn't get to go through everything, but if you would complete your survey, it helps give us an idea. Did the information received, did it change your opinion? Are we moving in a good direction, or is it just the wrong thing to do? So again, we're wanting to get that feedback, because I know I can't talk to everybody. Like I said, Julie and Lisa will be at the bottom of the stairs to take that information. Janet, I apologize, but I'm out of time. You'll have to talk to the administration about that, Janet. The council has nothing to do with that. I'm sorry. So at this point, that concludes our meeting on the review session on the exterior roads. And then, like I said, we will set up another one so that we can get more discussion on it. And I do truly appreciate all you guys' time. I know it takes a lot to come in here and be part of this, but we do appreciate your guys' help and your input. Thank you.